Ladiva is able to cancel her crossover into Jewel Resort Screwdriver, Maximum Love Bomb, the throw version, or the Shape of Love from the 30th frame on. This actually means that it's a pretty decent option to use and buffer the technical inputs for these supers and specials to get their higher damage. Ladiva's crossover is on the slower slide amongst the cast. A character like Gran has his recover in 29 frames. Meanwhile, Ladiva's takes 33. Now that she's able to cancel the last 3 of the frames into a command throw, this does mean that she's able to make some reads and dodge the opponent's moves, get closer, and actually probably get a throw punish in situations she couldn't do so before. Compare how this would look before. The extra 3 frames can definitely help her get these hits. The command throw is 7 frames, so with 3 frames of startup reduce on this option, it effectively means that in some of these situations, she might be able to beat out some mashes. Again, it's going to come down to very specific situations and timings with these interactions, but it's still cool that Ladiva has these options. And we can't sleep on the fact, too, that she's able to go into invincible command throw supers as well to go for a punish. Ladiva's dash heavy attack has effectively been reworked. For starters, the pushback has been increased. The enemy is always too far away for her to threaten any kind of command throw mix-up, which is going to be important this patch since those have been buffed incredibly high. A side effect of this, though, is that it means that if it is blocked, she's effectively safe. Compare that to its old behavior. In return for this change, it now has a new cinematic hit on counter hit. Before, you could basically get varying levels of advantage to get different kinds of combos depending on where it hit from. In general, the farther out you were, the more plus you were, but then the spacing could be inconsistent and weird for Ladiva to get a consistent combo from this. With the new cinematic hit, the opponent is sent flying into the wall even in mid-screen, and they have a wall bounce. This means that depending on the ranges, Ladiva is able to link either an EX Elegant Lariat or an Ultimate Elegant Lariat. At point-blank range, you're able to link a 2U. At close to max range, you're able to link into Ultimate Lariat.
Excellent.
You'll note that against an aerial opponent, the lateral knockback has been increased, and you also don't get the cinematic hit. You might be able to run up against some Okizeme, or depending on how close you are to the corner, still pick up some combos. I'll mention here that at some points, Ladiva's forward throw had some issues where the frame advantage was inconsistent against foes. It should always be +3 now against the entire cast. Now let's get into the Jewel Resort Screwdriver. These moves have been massively buffed across the board with a couple of nerfs to compensate for these changes on successful hit. For starters, let's look at the light version. The damage has been increased from 2300 to 2700 using a simple input. The damage with the technical version also increased. Before, you get 2530. And now you get 2970. The frame advantage after the light version has also been increased. Now you're +30 with Ladiva. Before, she was only +28, so a small change, but still one that she'll appreciate. The patch notes do mention that the light range has been slightly reduced. That said, it truly is a slight reduction in range. As you can see, that sequence still works, so I imagine this is just namely going to make it so that there's going to be some niche cases off of something like a spaced out 5L or a dash 66L where this would whiff. To compensate for these buffs, the light version has its whiff recovery increased by 8 frames. She's now -55. You almost have a full second to get a punish on her. Jewel Resort Screwdriver's medium version also sees several changes to it. We'll first go over the simple ones. The damage has been increased from 2700 to 3000, making sure that it does more damage than the new light command throw. The grab range has also been expanded. And before we talk about anything else, I'll go ahead and just demonstrate the old and the new version side by side. You're spaced out from the opponent with a plus 28 situation after the medium throw in the old version of the patch. Now let's look what happens in the new version. From mid-screen position on Ladiva's starting side, Gran is now almost completely within the corner. Ladiva is plus 30 in this situation and close enough to run her offense even further. She truly made her a terrifying command throw character where if you get hit with her mid-screen, she could just instantly put you in the corner with one of her strongest throws. As for that increase in range, it still doesn't really apply. She's not able to threaten this from other tick throw situations where her light throw would reach. The EX version of Jewel Resort Screwdriver didn't receive a damage buff, but it did receive the changes to its knockdown advantage as well as travel distance. It's a little less far than what the medium version did, but you're also now plus 57 in this situation. The only change to Ultimate Jewel Resort Screwdriver is that the whiff recovery has been increased by 8 frames. Basically, this is to make sure that all the moves are in line to being around negative 50 frames for a punish for the opponent to be easier. Ladiva's air throws, leg drop of adoration, have also received changes. The light and medium versions saw damage increases going up from 2300 to 2700 and 2700 to 3000 respectively. Their startup is being reduced. The light version now is a 4-frame throw instead of a 7-frame throw, and the medium version is a 7-frame throw instead of a 9-frame throw. All versions of leg drop of adoration also have their frame advantage on a successful throw normalized, probably just to mean that Ladiva is going to be able to rely on a consistent situation. The Jewel Resort Screwdrivers, the medium and EX versions also had increased travel distance upon a successful throw. Let's go ahead and just demonstrate each of the versions now. The light throw here gives us plus 44. Medium throw is also plus 44, and we're a little closer to the corner. And Gran's almost in the corner, and we're now plus 57 from the EX version. Let's compare these now to the previous patch. The light version was plus 46. The medium version was plus 56. Also, you'll notice the lack of corner carry. And the EX version was plus 58. Again, notice the lack of corner carry here. It's nice that the Diva players will have to worry about only having the same Okazemi options across all versions of the throw. They are significantly reduced, but at this close, a difference of 12 or 13 frames really doesn't matter for these throws. It's still going to be really good for her. This change is technically listed way down later in the patch, but I wanted to bring it up now because it felt appropriate to discuss since we just covered Jewel Resort Screwdriver and Leg Drop of Adoration's buffs, and this very much ties into them. Devoted Body Slam, the ultimate version, can now be cancelled after you successfully connect either one of those command throws. Imagine taking a single EX command throw, and if Ladiva has 50% skybound gauge, she's able to add on more damage to make it so that she does 5,300 damage to you total. And that's with simple inputs. Check out the damage with technical inputs. It increases about 350 damage total. From my testing, it seems like you can't get this link to work mid-screen, only when Ladiva puts you in the corner. All versions of Headbutt of Love now armor through projectiles instead of negating them. The only thing I can really find about this is how it interacts with skybound art gauge being built. As you can see here in the current patch, Ladiva is able to build up plenty of a bar of herself for doing this. Grant is able to build 3% for the fireball connecting. Compare that to how to behave before. With the fireball being negated, Gran no longer builds 2% extra bar for the fireball connecting. So I suppose that means that fireball characters will still be able to pepper Ladiva with fireballs, and if she's able to deal with them with her headbutt, she gains the extra meter, but the opponent isn't penalized for it. I imagine this change has some applications depending on the specific fireball. If any Ladiva player can point those out and note any significant changes in how these new Headbutt of Loves interact with any fireball in the game, be it single hit, multi-hit, EX, or ultimate, do let me know in the comments below. Light and medium versions of Headbutt of Love have two changes applied specifically to them. The light version has its knockback on hit reduced, while the medium version, when used as an anti-air, now causes a ground bounce.
Great.
As you can see, it allows for new links. Compare that to the old versions. You're significantly closer in the old example. And before, if you caught the enemy jumping, they would just be knocked straight down into the ground. At the very least now, if you somehow catch the opponent with using the medium Headbutt of Love as a frame trap and catch them jumping, you will be able to go ahead and pick up a combo from it. The EX version of Headbutt of Love has some significant changes to it that are arguably nerfs overall, I would say. The damage has been reduced on the first and second hit from 1,000 to 800 each, while the damage on the third hit was increased to 1,000 to 1,200, so the damage is more loaded towards the back end of the move. Additionally to this, the first and second hits will now launch a grounded foe. You can still combo from this. You can still combo from any of these ground bounces. As you can see, I have a little bit of trouble with the close medium link.
Great.
But the same thing plays out with the second hit.
Great.
The third hit leads to a far slash connection. Overall, for getting a hit with this move, it's a significant nerf overall because now instead of being able to get grounded extensions with Ladiva, pushing the opponent to the corner before you launch them and start to limit the combo, you now immediately launch them, and so you just get less hits overall for Ladiva. Still, I can also see this being a buff for her in some situations where perhaps she has a move that is on cooldown that would let her launch the opponent, and now she's able to use this to launch the opponent instead. But losing out on being able to get a standing reset here, or by going for a full combo extension and having plenty of corner carry with grounded hits and extensions with triple attacks, I think overall it would be considered nerf to the character. Compare that to how it behaved before. The third hit, you weren't able to get a combo after it, but you would just stop at the second hit. Again, I think overall with the damage nerfs to this move and the changes that Ladiva's combo routes overall are nerfed in general. But this makes sense. The goal for Cygames and Arxis in this patch with Ladiva was to push her more towards being a true command grappler by incentivizing players to use her command throws. Nerfing her combo routing to incentivize going for command throws does make sense. There's additional nerfs to Headbutt of Love as well, namely to the frame advantage. The first hit behaves as normal, where she's +3. However, the second and third hit saw significant changes to their frame data. The second hit used to be +0. And the third hit used to be -2. Let's compare the frame data now. The first hit is still +3. But the second hit, instead of being +0, is now -2. And the third hit is now -4. Ladiva's still safe after these sequences, and honestly, they're pretty minor. It's not like Ladiva was threatening any sort of tick throw off of these situations beforehand. It just means that now the opponent's going to have a little more of an advantage in time to force Ladiva to hold their pressure if she commits to multiple headbutts. The ultimate version of Headbutt of Love also received two changes. There was an issue where the skill would fill the SBA gauge on hit, and that has been fixed. Now it can also defend against ultimate skill, skybound arts, and super skybound arts that are projectiles. And this is how it used to behave.
Excellent.
I'm not sure how important of a change this actually is for Ladiva. It doesn't really feel like this is going to be an option where a Ladiva player is going to be willing to spend 50% of their SBA gauge just to beat a projectile out. Maybe there's something to do with like avoiding a chip-out kill in certain situations with Ladiva, or something with certain wake-ups against certain supers, but I was not able to find anything in testing against Gran. If you're able to break this change down further, the light and medium versions of Ladiva's elegant lariat saw numerous changes, while the EX lariat only had one, and that is this. The dash version has been removed from all forms of elegant lariat. At point-blank range, a non-dash version would start up in 18 frames for the light version. With a dash, you could speed it up to 17 frames. Let's go over the light changes first. The startup has been reduced from 18 frames to 16 frames, meaning that it's faster than what we had before with the dash version buffs. A couple other changes have also been applied. The recovery has been reduced from 21 frames to 16, but in return, the block stun has also been adjusted, changing the frame advantage from +5 to +3. This might mean that it's easier for Ladiva to time tick throws against the opponent overall, but it also could mean that the opponent's going to be able to mash out against certain throws more easier than others. Mid-air hit stun is reduced from 32 frames to 22 frames.
慎重に慎重にまだだ
So overall, Ladiva's Okizeme is worse off of this tool, and the lateral knockback has also been increased while the launch height has been reduced. Now let's see how it used to behave. As you can see, you get significantly less advantage here. The opponent recovered on the ground in the previous version, whereas they were able to recover in the air in the new version. The medium version saw similar changes. The startup has been reduced from 34 frames to 30. The block stun has been adjusted to still be +6, even though the recovery was reduced from 18 frames to 11 frames. The mid-air hit stun has also been reduced, down from 60 frames to only 26. Let's compare the two versions. As you can see again, the opponent didn't recover until they hit the ground. Again, it feels like this is just part of the ways of nerfing Ladiva's strike game so that she gets more and more incentivized to go for a command throw game. Elegant Lariat also saw a couple of changes. The startup has been reduced from 17 frames to 16, and the recovery has been increased by 3 frames. The block stun has been adjusted so that you still get +5 against crouching opponents. I imagine that the recovery nerfs are more about for making it easier for the opponent to get a good punish against Ladiva if they successfully spot dodge against this. Before here, you can see that sometimes Grant can get to about a -8 situation. As you might be able to tell, you're just able to get some more opportunities to get a good punish on Ladiva here. It's still inconsistent depending on when the opponent does the spot dodge and whatnot, but 3 more recovery frames is still bad for Elegant Lariat because, again, it means Ladiva is more likely to get consistently whiff punish for this if the opponent reacts and dodges correctly. The last change to Elegant Lariat's ultimate version was the hit stop on the second hit was increased by 3 frames so that you maintain the same follow-up options after the block stun adjustment. This is probably just to make sure that Ladiva still gets the same combo routes that she did before, since they weren't trying to nerf those in this move. Ladiva's Love Grapple, her 5U, saw a couple of changes. The initial travel speed has been adjusted, the acceleration has increased while the deacceleration has been reduced, and the grab range at maximum speed at 34 frames has been expanded. Medium slash into it. This is how it used to look. Hurl, the medium follow-up to Love Grapple, has a couple of changes as well to make it more combo-friendly. The wall bounce has been increased, making follow-up attacks easier to land from mid-screen, while the launch height has also been increased. This is what it looks like currently. Mid-screen, you basically get any sort of conversion that you want from it. And this is how it used to behave. A little farther out, so it's harder to get the links. Especially for like a medium slash. The last change of Ladiva is to her the Shape of Love's Super Skybound art. When you do a technical input for it, you have a 20% increase in damage instead of 10% increase, including in cancels. Before, with technical inputs, you could get 6,204 from a medium slash start or triple attack sequence. Let's look at the damage now. $6,532. It's been joked that Ladiva in Rising was a command throw character that got turned into a combo character somehow. But with these changes, it feels like she's back on track to being the quintessential grappler of the game. I don't know how overall she's going to shift within the tier list because on the one hand, she already had good strike conversions before, but now those seem to have been nerfed across the board in a couple of edge cases, particularly with her Headbutt game. That being said, though, the reward for command throws, both in terms of damage but also in terms of the Okizeme that you get and the screen positioning, means that she's more easily able to focus on using that part of her game plan and being able to force the opponent into those guessing situations. But for every buff that she received, there was also a nerf given to her. So I don't know if she's really going to be moving up or down in the tier list, or rather if her playstyle is just going to move laterally overall. Still, it's good to see that her identity is being more reinforced with these changes overall, so that she's going to play less like a combo character and more like a command throw character.